First, I'd like to just say thank you all for joining us. We do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to learn a little bit more about how invoicing works with TruckLogics. You can see on screen, we've got our webinar title here and our support email address in the bottom right-hand corner. I'll be mentioning this periodically throughout, but always remember, our support center is located right in Rock Hill, South Carolina. We're open 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Anytime you guys have a question or would like to get in touch with us for some more information, please give us a call at 704-234-6946, or you can always email us 24/7 at support@trucklogics.com. A little bit about me. My name is Sebastian Dudzinski. I've been with SPAN for a little bit over a year here. I'm the Transportation Product Manager, and I'll be conducting this webinar to give you guys a little bit more information about TruckLogics and how invoicing works. TruckLogics is the only product built directly using feedback from industry professionals, the only TMS with a built-in mobile app, and the best platform out there for managing your trucking operations end to end. Our parent company, SPAN Enterprises, also offers these other great products. So TruckLogics was developed by the same company that brought you these other solutions and other familiar industry leaders, including Express Truck Tax, which is the largest e-file provider of the Form 2290 in the country. You'll also see on screen PayWow. PayWow is an easy-to-use online payroll solution, empowering businesses to take control of their payroll and contractor needs. PayWow handles all applicable payroll taxes, quarterly tax filings, year-end tax filings such as 1099s and W-2s, and provides a convenient direct deposit option to pay workers easily. PayWow is going to be integrating with TruckLogics. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about how to get set up before the integration goes live, please send me a request to support@trucklogics.com or email support@paywow.com directly to get more information about how to connect your two accounts together. Also on screen are employer tax filings provided by Tax Bandits, ACA compliance for the Affordable Care Act done through ACA-wise, our IFTA reporting tool, called Express IFTA, and our pay stub solution, 123 pay stubs, all of which were developed by our same company. TruckLogics has been built from the ground up for truckers and trucking companies by drawing on our 10 years of experience supporting the trucking industry. TruckLogics provides a valuable and robust time and money-saving solution for the best price on the market. You can check out all of our features on screen, but they're best viewed on our website, trucklogics.com. Just go ahead and take us a walk on over to trucklogics.com and check out all the features that we currently offer. Also with TruckLogics, we've integrated with key industry partners. So all of our users can get the maximum benefit from our software without having to navigate from website to website. You can see on screen, we are integrated with DAT, so you can search your DAT power load board for loads in your area or even post your trucks. We're integrated with Keep Truckin' for easy IFTA reporting from your ELD devices. We're integrated with Quickbooks Online for an accounting solution to export your invoices. We're also integrated with ProMiles for creating truck-only routes for your dispatches and easy trip sheet population. You can also file your 2290 with TruckLogics directly on our TruckLogics mobile app. Our IFTA integration with TruckLogics is powered by Express IFTA. So it's all the same features and functions that you're familiar with and love on Express IFTA are provided in the back end of TruckLogics. If you'd like more information about these integrations or how they work, please send us an email after the webinar ends and we'll answer your questions directly. Before we go ahead and get started, I just want to give you a little bit of information about TruckLogics and Invoices. TruckLogics has produced over 500,000 invoices in its lifetime. And it's one of the quickest and easiest ways to get an invoice out to your customer or broker, which will get you paid in a more timely fashion. The sooner the invoice is received by your bill to party, the sooner you're going to get paid. So what we're going to be going through today is a way to generate each one of these invoices quickly and easily, just to show you how easy it is to get these invoices sent out. Brief overview of what we're going to be going through. So we're going to start with a load invoice. A load invoice is the most common method that an invoice is generated with our system. I'm going to quickly create an invoice for you as associated with an individual load. I'll create for you a grouped invoice. Grouped invoices are a way to generate a batch of invoices and condense them down into one invoice as opposed to multiple. Standalone invoices, this is the way that you can utilize TruckLogics to invoice your customer, your broker, or what have you, for an item that is unrelated to a load. Next is emailing a batch of invoices. In our system, we give you a document section that allows you to go ahead and email batches of documents. You can use this to generate an email with a zip file or download copies of all the invoices that our system has produced for you. And then finally, we're going to drop in quickly to show you how to receive full and partial payments to create an accurate P&L statement for all the invoices that you create on your account. At the very end, we'll go ahead and open it up for a Q&A. I'll redo the instructions during the Q&A session, but just so you do know, everybody is muted upon entry into the webinar. To get your questions answered, please use the Q&A function available on your Zoom meeting window, or you can also use the raise hand function to get my attention, and we'll hear your question live over the air. Okay, just give me 1 second here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start sharing for you a TruckLogics screen. So within your TruckLogics account, you'll have access to an accounts section, which has our invoicing module. The invoicing module is available on every level of account except for leased operator. And from this module, you're going to use this to kind of get a snapshot of the company's financial health and the current state of the invoices that your system has produced. We're not going to be starting here. We're going to take a walk quickly over to the load section of the account and generate an invoice as part of a load. Please excuse the load times that you're seeing on screen. We are working through a VPN from home, so the load times that you're seeing on screen are not indicative of how the system will work for you at your business location. You should see much quicker load times for each one of the button clicks that you see me do. Okay, on screen, what we're looking at is we're looking at a bunch of loads that I have created as part of my normal daily operation. What we're going to do is we're going to create an invoice for one of these loads. But first, I want to create a new load before I invoice it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly clone the load for my dedicated lane that I did last week that was delivered today and set this up for tomorrow. Typically with TruckLogics, you'll start the invoicing process after the negotiation and rate confirmation process has already taken place. So you do have a signed rate confirmation in hand before you go into this section and start typing it. What we're going to do is I'm quickly going to clone a new load that's going to be picked up tomorrow, and it's going to be dropped off on the 13th, and hit create. Once the load has been cloned, I'm now in the load summary screen. The load summary screen is going to show you all the information that I have previously entered for my load. We're going to be billing my Dinosaur broker company for hauling this load. So what we're going to do is after we've created the load, we've typed it all in, and we have no other information or edits to change, we're going to stop into the invoicing tab here right on your load screen. You'll notice a couple things right off the bat. One, we give you a pre-formatted message up at the top of the invoice to let you know that you don't have to retype everything. All of the information that you entered as part of the load creation process will automatically be carried over to your invoice. There are a few data points that will need to be filled in by hand. However, everything that you've already done, you do not have to do it again, including selecting who the broker or customer is that will receive this invoice. If you had typed it in, an account number or a reference number, we're going to put in a reference number here just to serve the most number of people. You may want to include your broker's pro number as part of your invoicing, or if you have a factoring company account number, you may want to include that as well on the invoice. So we're going to include broker pro number here just to add that little bit of extra information here. I'm also going to assign this a new invoice number. If you have to, you would then adjust the invoice date, the terms, and any of the other information that we had already created as part of the load creation process. So as I scroll down the screen here, you can see it's listing my customer, my pickup, and my drop-off location, the freight that I'm hauling. We are the Dinosaur Shipping Company, so affectionately named. We do ship dinosaurs throughout the country. We're shipping a T-Rex here. And our hauling charges that we've entered on the load side are already carried in. Our $1,500 flat fee, our per mile fuel surcharge at 16 cents per mile, which was used based upon the route that we calculated when we entered the load. And then any accessorial fees, which are additional increased costs. If we know them, we can add them at this point. And then any deductions. We're going to customize this invoice real quick. First, what we're going to do is we're going to add a lumper fee here. that I'm going to be billing back to my broker for $150 to help unload this T-Rex. But for the purposes of this example, my broker issues a credit hold / quick pay scenario for this invoice. So to accommodate that, he holds 10% of the line haul charges as a credit hold until he's paid by the customer and issues a quick pay. We're going to add this as a negative item. So we're going to add a credit hold here. Accessorial deductions are specifically negative items for another $150. And you can see the subtotal will adjust down by $150. Okay. Other things that you can do for this load, say you're not working with a broker who does a quick hold scenario and you are working with a factoring company. You can set this invoice up for factoring very, very easily. All you need to do is switch this toggle in the middle of the invoice from no to yes. Select your factoring company from the list. We do give you a couple of preloaded defaults, including Fleet One and TCI. I've added a couple of my own, including the Dinosaur Factoring Company, which I'm going to select here. And you can see their default factoring rate of 3% automatically pulls in. That's it. You don't need to take any additional steps. You don't need to do any additional work. When you go to email out this invoice, it'll automatically get routed to the factoring company instead of your broker. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to double check to make sure that my notice of assignment has been included. If you guys have worked with factoring companies before in the past, you'll know that most factoring companies will require you to enter a notice of assignment somewhere on the invoice. You have two different options for where you can add that. If this is a one-off factoring, you'll add this here in the notice notes for the customer. So you type that information in here. And that will allow you to send your invoice with a single notice of assignment for one factoring company one time. If you always work with a factoring company and you're never going to be sending your invoices to any other location than your factoring company, you'll want to pay attention to the terms and conditions. The terms and conditions is a blanket statement that is applied to any invoice that you create, regardless of where that invoice was created within the account. What I mean by that is once you add in your invoice terms and conditions, every invoice that the system produces will have this information along the bottom of it. Okay? When you've added your company's notice of assignment or the factoring company's notice of assignment there, you can update this in your settings as well to permanently preserve this notification. If you're doing it one-off, you hit update and it will save back to the account into this invoice. Once you're satisfied with all the additions, all the updates, all the changes, and everything that you've set up for this individual invoice, you'll click Generate up at the top. Once the invoice has been generated, it will display to you in a draft state, showing you all the information that you previously had entered in. What I'm going to show you here is let me switch my screen share view here for a second. I'm going to show you what the actual output looks like when this invoice is printed, to show you that clean, professional-looking invoice that TruckLogics produces every time we run an invoice. You can see that my company logo is up here in the top left-hand corner along with my company information. The remit to payment information is above the broker now because I did add that factoring company. And then all of the relevant information that the invoice would need to have on it in order for you to get paid in a timely fashion is available right here on screen. This includes the pickup information, the drop-off information, your load information, and then a breakdown of your freight details and a breakdown of your charges, positive and negative. Again, if you do have positive and negative items that are required to be added to your invoice in order to get paid on time, our system does support that. You can also see the notes, the notice of assignment, and our company terms and conditions are at the bottom. What you can also do at this point, with the invoice still in a draft state, you can export this to Quickbooks. Exporting to Quickbooks will connect it to your Quickbooks online account, where you could finish the accounting functions within the Quickbooks side if you choose. The exportation of the invoice will also export its status as a draft, finalized, or paid invoice. When we're ready to receive payment on this, we're going to go ahead and click Finalize. Once the invoice has been finalized, you'll notice that we now have a new button up at the top of the invoice called Receive Payment. Typically, an invoice will not go out for payment until other documentation has been added into the actual account by your driver. This would be something like a proof of delivery or BOL signature document that needs to be appended to the invoice, especially if you're working with a factoring company or a broker. It's very easy to do. Let me show you real quick. All you do is hit More and hit Email. And what you're looking at on screen is a pre-formatted email that our system generates, which includes the load information along with a copy of the invoice that we just created. You can append additional documentation either by custom uploading directly to this email. All you have to do is hit choose file and find that information on your computer. So if you have like a scanned rate confirmation or a completed BOL with signatures on it that's saved to your computer, you can upload it by simply hitting choose file. However, if it was appended by the driver via our mobile app, it will be in the documents section for this load. So no need to upload it again. All you do is click choose from load documents, find what you would like to append, check the boxes and hit attach. It will show you all the information that's going to be attached to this invoice. When you email it, all you do is hit send. One thing I kind of skipped over, but I'd like to circle back to, is you'll notice up at the top that we give you 3 different toggles to select who gets this invoice. It's defaulted to both, but if you'd like to change this and send it just to your factoring company, you can select the factoring company toggle at the top, or your broker asked you for a copy, you'd like to send them a copy, just switch broker and it'll pull in the broker information and broker email address and you can send them a copy as well. Once the invoice has been finalized, you'll then be able to receive payment on it. So let's go drop in real quick and show you how to receive payment on an individual invoice. You click that receive payment button up at the top of the invoice. The system will load the receive payment section on your account. And once in there, it's going to pre-fill who we're receiving payment from. So you can see it automatically switch the toggle up at the top to my factoring company. And it's automatically showing me my received full payment, which is less my factoring cost. Now, with our system, you're afforded the ability to record a partial payment against a factored invoice. If you would like to, you can go ahead and record that you received a quick pay for this of $1,000 today. We're going to go ahead and say that we received this via check 1001. When you're done, you hit save. You've now recorded a partial payment on your factored invoice. And you can see that the banner in the top left-hand corner has updated to partially paid. And you can now view the payment history for this individual invoice by receipt number. When it's time to receive your final payment, you can go back to the invoice screen itself, click on the invoice tab in your load, and click receive payment. Or you can simply hover over accounts and click receive payment. Select factoring company from the list and start typing in your factoring company information. Again, it will automatically pull in any outstanding invoices that have either been completely paid or partially paid into the system for your viewing. You can then receive the balance of the payment against this invoice. Please note that once you've received a partial payment on a factored invoice, that you will not then be able to adjust to the factoring rate. So if you do have a variable factoring rate from your factoring company, please always enter in your final factoring rate as your default factoring rate when creating that entry in your address book. When you're done, hit save. Oh, excuse me, I forgot to put in a date here. And now we've received 2 different payments on this invoice, and we're looking at a list of all of our paid invoices, which is where the system will drop you after you've completed that. Now, I'm going to show you how to create a group of invoices. To get started, you hover over accounts, click invoices. And now you can see that the system is trying to display to me all of the invoices that I have previously created. Up in the top right-hand corner of your screen is this add invoice button. To get started, click add invoice. And this is to support the situation where you have 5 or 6 loads for a dedicated lane for an individual broker that you're hauling for them on a regular basis, and you'd like to bill them on 1 invoice per week as opposed to 5 invoices per week. This is just to make both your lives a little bit easier. So we're going to select broker here, and I'm going to start typing my broker information. So my Dinosaur Broker Company. And what you can see is up at the top, there are a few pieces of information that we will need to complete in order to create this grouped invoice. Grouped invoices are comprised of other invoices that have yet to be generated on your account. So if you'll remember when we first visited that invoice as part of a load, in the top left-hand corner, the banner read new. Any invoice with a new banner in the top left-hand corner is available for grouping. All you have to do is follow this procedure here. First, we're going to set up an invoice number here. So we're going to say INV-00567. We're going to leave our terms as due on receipt. We're not going to add a reference number here because all of our individual loads also have a reference number that we may want to be relevant. So what we're going to do is we're now going to go through this list. You have a couple of different options. The first is you can completely uncheck every single one and go back through and select only those invoices that you would like grouped. For this example, I'm going to group my invoices for my dedicated lane last week. So that's dispatch D-10,012 through D-10,017 by checking each one of them here. I'm going to add this as a reference field as T-Rex shipments, so my broker knows that they're the T-Rex shipments that he had me send last week. And when I'm done, if I do not have any additional items to add to it, we're going to do the same process that we ran through with the invoice for the load. Any notes that you need to have displayed to the customer can be entered into the notes field. Any memo, which you would like only shown internally, can be added to the memo field. And then, of course, you can always adjust your terms and conditions at this point. Okay, and factoring for grouped invoices is also available. It uses the same process as an individual invoice for load. You switch this from no to yes and select your factoring company from the list. Once the invoice has been generated, it'll show you again a draft state invoice with all of the loads that we hauled. So again, this is a group of invoices that we have created based upon one dedicated lane that we had during 1 week that we're going to bill my broker for one time. Just to cut down on paperwork, cut down on ease of use, because again, the emphasis is the faster you can get this invoice in front of your broker or your factoring company, the faster they can issue your quick pay. In most scenarios, if you can invoice, they can quick pay the same day. So if you do want to wait, batch them out once per week, the option is available to you. But just know that you're probably best served if you are using a quick pay scenario to invoice immediately, which was the first example that I showed you. Again, you can do all of the same functions that you can with a load invoice. You can export this to QuickBooks and complete the process there. You can finalize this, which will set it up for payment. You can print a copy of it, or you can email a copy of it as well. Emailing is going to give you a little bit of a different screen than it did on the load because, again, this is not associated with any one load. So to email out the documentation, you will need to go back to the loads and email the additional documentation. Once this is good to go, we're going to hit finalize. And then this invoice is set up and ready to go. But let's just say, for example, we made a mistake and we do not want to use this grouped invoice. We instead want to create an invoice for each one of these individually. You can always come back to any invoice that you have ever created in our system that is yet unpaid and void out the invoice, which effectively deletes it. Okay, so if you ever made a mistake and you need to go back and change it, for any invoice example that I'm showing you, the function you're looking for is called void. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a standalone invoice unrelated to any of the actual loads or dispatches that I have in my account. To do so, you hover over accounts and you hit invoices one more time. And you can do this from any screen. So I'm going to show you on the open invoices screen where I just created this one invoice. If I was looking at this, I could hit add invoice here. Okay, once I hit add invoice, I can then create a new invoice. This is to account for situations where you have a bill that you need to send to a customer or a broker that is unrelated to any load or dispatch that you have created in your account. This could be for something like a detention. So you were at your customer and the driver had to sit for 2 hours, so you're going to bill a detention back to your consignee. So we're going to go to our consignee for the loads that we just created, which is Jurassic Park. We're going to uncheck include load and dispatch charges. So that information is now removed. We're going to create a new invoice number. We're going to put in the reference field what this is for. And then we're going to set up the actual fee or charge that we're issuing to this customer for this detention. So we're going to do detention, driver John Doe, 2 hours at a rate of $75 per hour, which means that they owe us for 2 total hours. So they owe us a grand total of $150. What you can also do on these invoices, you can also add a percentage discount if you want to give them a break, or you can add a specific tax rate or sales tax rate if it is applicable in your state. Please double check your local or state tax laws and sales tax laws to ensure that your invoicing for your trucking company does not need to include this tax value. I'll show you the settings at the end before we go ahead and jump for the Q&A. You can then add additional rows. A funny joke that I like to make when I'm displaying this during demos is if you wanted to bill the guy for being a jerk, you could bill him for being a jerk. Or if this customer is on your blacklist and you have a removal fee, you can go ahead and add that here simply by typing it in, and the invoice total will adjust based upon what you typed in. To modify what you've already typed in, you simply just X out the line. So again, with TruckLogics and invoicing, we never lock you into anything unless you've completed payment on that invoice. So if you do have an invoice in a finalized state or a draft state, you can always go back and edit it. What we're going to do is I'm going to add a memo field here. This is only viewable internally between members of my staff who have access to this account and can view the invoicing under the accounts module within the account. This means only an office manager and the account administrator would have access to this section. So we're going to add a memo here that is internal only. These guys do not pay on time. It's a very common thing in the industry to invoice a customer and have to wait between 60 and 90 days before you're actually paid, which is the emphasis that we're placing on invoicing with TruckLogics. With our system, you can type in an invoice in a matter of seconds. It doesn't take any additional effort or any additional work if you're using the load module as well. So you can invoice effectively only a few minutes after you've received your rate confirmation. And remember, the faster you invoice, the faster you get paid. So this standalone invoice is ready to go. I'm going to hit finalize, which sets it up for payment. And then we can go ahead and receive payment against each one of these individually. So you can hit the receive payment button if you'd like, or you can go over to accounts and hit the receive payment module to receive payment from this individual for this detention. We're going to go back to my broker. I'm going to show you what the broker's invoice looks like. It's going to be a very familiar screen. And again, that's to facilitate ease of use. So it doesn't matter if they're a broker or a factoring company or a customer or a carrier. When you go to receive payment, the screen is always going to be the same. It's going to show you the actual amount, any balance that you have due. And if you'd like to record payment for the entire thing, it'll pre-fill that information in there for you. If not, you can just simply X out what you've got in the paid amount and put in what you were actually paid for each individual invoice. And it will create a rolling balance for you. So you can keep track of everything that you were paid for every load or every dispatch that you've ever generated within your system right from this screen. Okay, a couple other tips and tricks that I'm going to show you before we go ahead and jump for the Q&A. As part of your Invoices module, on the left-hand side in your quick filter menu is your aging report. The aging report is going to be very, very helpful to your accountant or your office manager or whoever you have doing your invoicing within your company, because they'll be able to see what you have outstanding in total receivables and the current age of that. You'll also be able to see if you've received payment from these customers or brokers in the past. A little trick that you can use is if you go to, let's go to the payment history for my Dinosaur City broker company. What it's going to do is it's going to give you a little calculation up at the top of the screen that's going to show you exactly how long on average it takes you to get paid by these individual customers or brokers. This allows you to blacklist those that don't pay you on time, you know, the guys that are 120 days. And it also allows you to keep track of what on average it is, like on average how long it takes you to get paid, just as a snapshot view. And so what you can see, the system did calculate that it takes us on average 63 days to get paid by my Dinosaur broker company, okay? What you can do is you can take a look at when the invoice was generated versus when the invoice was paid, or when the invoice was generated versus when it was due to see exactly how long it took. Okay, let me just make sure here. And the last but not least function available to you is the exportation to Quickbooks. So I'm going to briefly show you how to get that started. With QuickBooks Online, you'll first have to sync your account before you can start exporting your invoices. It's very easy to set up. It's just a few button clicks. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the start of the prompt, but I will not be able to walk you through because I don't want to connect this to somebody's live QuickBooks Online account. So to get started, you click Sync with QuickBooks. The system will then try and reconcile your customer and vendor list between the two systems. What I always recommend that you do is you always choose for each if your customer list is small enough. But if you're confident, go ahead and just put all your customers to customers in the TruckLogics side. You can always move them around or call our support center for assistance, and we can help you get everybody where they need to go. Once you hit that Connect with QuickBooks button, it's going to ask you to type in your QuickBooks Online login credentials. Once your QuickBooks Online login credentials have been entered, you will need to create what we call a field map. You'll just need to indicate where you would like the individual items on your invoice to go account-wise into your QuickBooks Online account. You'll match up like line haul income to line haul income, fuel surcharge to fuel surcharge, et cetera, et cetera. When you're done, you can then start exporting your invoices, and we give you a very, very quick and easy tool to export everything that you currently have outstanding. Once the connection has been established, you click Export to QuickBooks on top of the invoice, or if you've waited and you have a backlog of invoices to export, you come into any load screen, open, email, paid, partially paid, voided, or all, and click Export to QuickBooks. The system is going to populate a list of every invoice that you have ever generated in your account that has yet to be exported to your QuickBooks account. If it's not on the QuickBooks side, it'll appear in this list. You can then sort this list into an individual period, an individual type, or an individual customer or broker, and export those invoices. However, if you just want to blanket send everything that you got, all you have to do is scroll all the way to the bottom and hit Export Invoices. And all 110 of the invoices that I have on my account will be exported automatically over to QuickBooks. Okay. Let me just go ahead and just change my screen over here. Give me a second. Okay, now we're going to start the Q&A part of our invoicing webinar. First, I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to join us today. We look forward to working with you in the future and helping you guys get paid as quickly as possible using TruckLogics invoicing. We'll now open the floor to questions. Please type your questions into the chat box or the Q&A box, or use the raise hand function to get my attention, and I will unmute your microphone so you can ask your question live. Please send or hold any questions unrelated to invoicing with TruckLogics specifically, and send them later to support@trucklogics.com. Or you can give us a call at our support center at 704-234-6946, and we can have a discussion over the phone. If you have any questions about PayWow or our other integrations, specifically for PayWow, please email support@paywow.com. Or if you have questions about how the integrations work with TruckLogics, you can always contact our support center. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Not to worry. We did have a couple of questions that were submitted to us beforehand. Actually, one question that was submitted to us beforehand that I'd like to go ahead and answer for you. And it was very to the point. The client asked, how does this help me get paid faster? With our system, there's two things to note that you can do that can help you get paid in a more timely fashion. The first one is the invoicing systems from almost all factoring companies that we have interacted with will read a PDF as is off of the email system. What I mean is if you are working with TCI and they are set up in our accounts by default and you send them an invoice from our system, they can read that PDF and issue quick pay without ever having to interact with you. So you can send your invoice for factoring to TCI as is without making any changes, and they'll read it directly off of the PDF that you create. Also, the second part of this is adding and adopting the invoicing function into your daily order of operations. So a lot of guys, a lot of fleet managers run the back office as well. They all wear many hats. They do many things. They have their hands in every pie. It's very, very common. However, the thing that gets missed is the invoicing function. It normally gets pushed off till the end of the week or pushed off to the accountant, this, that, and the other thing. With our system, you can create the load, like you saw me do at the beginning of the webinar, and create the invoice in less than 60 seconds. If you're cloning an existing load and you don't have any changes to make for your invoice, all you have to do is click Generate Invoice at the top of that screen after you put in your invoice number. And that's all of about 60 seconds to do, and then you can send that out. So from receipt of your rate confirmation, you can reasonably be sure, if you have adopted the methodology of how TruckLogics typically does invoices as part of loads, you can always invoice within 10 minutes of an agreement for your rate confirmation. And remember, the sooner you send your invoice, the sooner you get paid. All right, it looks like we do have a couple of questions here. I have one question here. Charles, I'm going to go ahead and answer your question, and then Nate, 1 second, I'll get to you in a minute. Charles asks, how does this help me pay my drivers? Well, sir, the invoicing module is unrelated to the settlements module. Settlements are done as part of dispatches in two different ways. You'll create a trip settlement and a weekly settlement within our system. If you'd like to, please email me at support@trucklogics.com. And what I'll do is I'll send you back a information packet with exactly how to create and generate settlements for your drivers within the TruckLogics account. All right, let's go ahead and jump to Nate here. Okay, Nate.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm in the trial right now. I really appreciate you going through and doing this. Show us, to explain the invoicing. I've been doing this for about 2 years, so I'm pretty new into this business. I had typically waited until I got PODs from the driver to send out an invoice and the PODs to the broker,
Mm-hmm.
But is that not very common? I mean, did the brokers not really?
That's actually the most common method.
Okay.
What I was doing is I wanted to place emphasis on the fact that in some cases, especially for like a quick pay scenario where you're working with a broker who does issue a quick pay, they'll typically issue that quick pay as soon as the invoice is received, which you may not know. They don't typically give that information up, right? So they're not going to be like, yeah, we'll give you, 90% of the line haul charges the day that you invoice us, regardless of a complete paperwork packet or a, proof of delivery or anything like that. But again, on an individual by individual basis, you'll need to make that determination for each broker that you work with. It's more so if you do wait on the POD or the BOL to be finalized, it's more so pertinent to do it by adding in the invoice as soon as you create the load in our system. This way, the second the driver uploads his POD with the signature on it, you can just drop right into the dispatch, drop right into the invoice, and send the invoice out with all of the additional documentation without having to wait, right? And go back and finalize an invoice or use an alternate system, that kind of a thing.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
All right, and since you're still on a free trial, don't hesitate to just contact our support center if you have any questions at all. The information is on your screen right there. Just send us a call, shoot us an email. We're also available via live chat on the same time frame that we are open at the office, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday Eastern time. And we're always happy to help you. I just want to say thank you again, Nate, for taking the time and joining us for our free webinar series. We are going to be doing a couple more later on down the road. The next one is on Friday for Day in the Life of a Fleet Manager. That's going to be more of a story-based kind of a presentation where I'm going to walk you through a few functions that a fleet manager has to deal with on a daily basis and how to use those functions within TruckLogics.